Hey, what's up? I'm Casey and this is CaseyReacts. Today I'm going to be going through r/unpopular opinion on Reddit. Have you ever thought that Batman's a lame superhero? Have you ever thought that deviled eggs are disgusting foods? Have you ever thought that strawberry milk is superior to chocolate milk? Well, if you've thought any of these things or anything like it, you belong on Unpopular Opinion. It's the place on the internet where you can take your opinion and shove it where the sun don't shine. In other words, Reddit. Alright, let's get right into it. Wedding culture is so weird. I'll never understand why you would want to pay thousands of dollars to accommodate and feed hundreds of people that don't care that much about you to celebrate your love. Pretty much just what the title says. I understand that it's a celebration of love between two people, but sometimes it's just too much. A bridal party where the maid of honor and the bridesmaids feel obligated to pay for their dresses, makeup, and everything the bride wants, expensive unnecessary stuff, a rehearsal dinner, a venue for a lot of people you don't ever see, sometimes a destination wedding where you have to spend money that you don't have for a hotel, a plane, among other things. The culture is so weird too. Relationships and friendships can be deteriorated if you don't agree on everything about the wedding. I see everything just plain ridiculous. Yeah, I completely get this viewpoint. I've never really understood wedding culture. I've always thought, just get a quickie courthouse wedding and be done with it. But that's not what everybody thinks. My wife, she absolutely loves big weddings. She wanted a big wedding and unfortunately we couldn't afford it, but we're hoping to do something big for vow renewals whenever we hit our 5 or 10 year anniversary. But for me personally, I've never understood the allure to have a big wedding. My opinion is basically have the wedding, make it small, courthouse wedding or in a small church that you go to if you go to church, and just have family and a few close friends there. Go out to eat after the wedding, and you know what? You can use that money that you would have used to have the big, huge wedding, use it to go on your honeymoon. That's what I would have wanted to do if I had the money to do a big wedding. But there's no wrong way to have a wedding. If you prefer big weddings, then by all means, have a big wedding. If you want to have a tiny wedding and then go all out on the honeymoon, do it. If you want to do a big wedding and a big honeymoon, go ahead. It really just depends on what you're willing to spend on it and what you really consider important for marriage. I hate the lack of physical buttons on new tech products. It's far easier to adjust your mirrors if you don't have to go through 2 menus to get to a touchscreen that allows you to adjust your mirrors. I find having a home button on my phone much simpler and easier than one without that, and I find it easier to navigate my phone. I don't have some fancy motion capture that doesn't work half the time to detect my hand movements in order to do something. I don't care if it's minimalistic, futuristic, or if it looks cool. I want physical buttons that clicks. It's cheaper, more reliable, sometimes, more satisfying, and a lot of the time, more convenient. Edit. To all the people calling me a boomer, I'm 17. I mean, as long as the manufacturer doesn't really cheap out on the touchscreen, then using a touchscreen is arguably a lot more reliable than using buttons. I have some buttons in my car, and I have a touchscreen in my car as well. Well, the buttons get stuck sometimes. Touchscreen, it can lag a little bit because it's a 2015, so not really huge on the touchscreen aspect of cars at that point, as far as I know at the very least. But arguably, I would say that touchscreen is better. Probably the same thing with phones. I really, really like having a sleek design on my phone. I don't want the buttons that can get gunked up. I would rather it just be completely touchscreen. Like I said, it really just depends on how it's done. If the touchscreen is done very cheaply, then buttons are going to be a great way to go. But, you know what? If they put the money into it to make it efficient, to make it reliable, touchscreen will outdo buttons every single time. I prefer Touch ID on the old iPhones to Face ID on the current ones. I currently own an iPhone 12 Pro, and I recently found out my old iPhone 6 and set it back up. Using the Touch ID on it was so refreshing. While Face ID is an amazing technology, it can be unreliable sometimes and requires you to be looking at your phone for it to work. Also, in the currently world of wearing masks, it makes it virtually useless. Touch ID, at least for me, works 99% of the time, and you don't need to be looking at it to work. Of course, wearing a mask isn't an issue for it. No, this isn't an earth-shattering statement, I just thought I'd share. Man, I don't know what Apple's doing, but they need to get their game up. I'm a pretty hardcore Samsung user, I prefer the Samsung Galaxies, but they both have facial recognition and thumbprints. I have it both on my phone. Sometimes if I accidentally get my phone's screen to turn on, it'll look at me and be like, oh, hi, and then unlock. But it also has Touch ID. It reads my thumbprint, and I can't get into it without my thumbprint or my face or my password. It has all 3 of them. So I don't really use Apple products, so I'm not sure what they're doing over there, but if they changed it from Touch ID to only face recognition, they really need to get their stuff together. Having multiple ways that you can get into your phone is easily the best option. Plus, Apple's been stealing things from Samsung and saying that it's brand new, like, for years and years. That has absolutely nothing to do with this particular post. I just really like to mention that all the time. Anytime I can crap on Apple, I do. Boozy brunch is much better than going out to clubs or bars at night. I used to go out a lot in my younger years, but thinking about it, that was expensive. Clubs and bars would be packed. If you didn't pregame enough, you're waiting at the bar way too long and end up spending money. I was out really late. I'd start getting ready at 9 p.m., pregame around 10, and be back home anywhere between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. The next day was ruined because I'd sleep in and be way too hungover or tired to do anything. Why boozy brunch is better? At some places, you can get unlimited mimosas, Bloody Marys, etc., and a meal for a fixed price. Sign me the heck up. You also get a table and are able to talk with your friends. You also have a waiter or waitress checking in to fill up your glass. Sign me up twice. 3. I'd be back home at a reasonable time. I'd work out at 8 a.m., start getting ready at 10 a.m., get to brunch anywhere from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., and be home anywhere from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m.? Amazing. 4. Next day isn't ruined at all, and I get to have a full night's sleep and be up at a reasonable time. I'd be well rested and able to take on the next day. So unless we normalize going out at 7 p.m., boozy brunch takes my vote. I've never gone to a place that does brunch, or at the very least, not a place that specifically is for brunch. I'm sure a lot of places have brunch that I've been to. I've just never experienced it. But that sounds awesome. I don't really like going into huge crowded places with a lot of people like bars and clubs or anything like that. I mean, I loved going to karaoke nights at bars, but that's about it. But going to brunch and having a boozy brunch sounds amazing. Getting mimosas, getting, fuzzy navels, getting whatever drinks along with your omelet, along with your hash, along with whatever else. That sounds amazing. I would love to do that. And for some reason, even though it's still drinking and eating, it feels a lot classier than going to a bar. I don't know, maybe it's because it's something that was popularized on TV. Although I'm sure it was popularized before it was on TV, because otherwise it wouldn't be on TV. However, the only time I've experienced it is on TV. I love when old men stare at me at nude beaches. Honestly, I love when crusty-ass old men stare at me at nude beaches. I'm a female, by the way. People complain about it, but nothing beats having an old dude come up to you to awkwardly chat while half-chubbed. And no, I'm not trying to get with these men or egg them on. I just eat up that kind of attention. Feels good getting compliments, no? Well, I can personally say, I don't really like it whenever creepy, crusty old men are staring at me, but I also don't like it when people stare at me in general. I find it very, very unsettling, and it makes my anxiety go crazy. Mainly because I'm wondering if there's anything wrong, or if, if my shoe's untied, or I have a giant bee on my neck, things like that. Is it irrational? Yes. Do I still get unsettled whenever people stare at me? Also yes. Making your bed every day is completely pointless. What's the point of wasting your time making the bed only for you to just undo it all whenever you go to sleep? Does making the bed improve your quality of sleep? No. I'm not really sure, but I don't think that's really an unpopular opinion. I don't know too many people that actually make their bed every day as soon as they get up. I mean, yeah, a lot of people will make it right before they go to sleep, but that's so you don't have to fight with your covers while you're trying to get to sleep. But making it every day before you go out, I've always heard the whole thing of hey, it lets you get your first thing of the day done, so everything else is kind of like a snowball effect. But really, it's just more hey, you have to get up earlier so you can waste time doing something whenever you're going to be doing it that night anyway. I would happily wait an extra day for package delivery if it meant that workers were treated humanely. I would quite cheerfully wait an extra day or two for the delivery of a package if it meant the warehouse workers were given job security, workers' rights, and adequate bathroom breaks. I don't think I've ever been so desperate for instant material gratification that I was willing to countenance human beings urinating into bottles. No company names mentioned. Yeah, I'll straight up mention company names. Amazon. They don't treat their employees well at all. In fact, they actively mistreat their employees. If their employees talk about unionizing, the second that they do that, the second that management catches whiff of it, they will fire them on the spot. There are a lot of people that have reported, hey, they had me working in the warehouse just up until a few days before my probationary period is over, and then they fire me so they don't have to give me benefits. Drivers have to go pee in bottles. They don't put bathroom breaks on their routes. All in all, Amazon is a trash company. However, it's often not much better for anything like UPS or FedEx. I've said it before that I'm a former FedEx employee. Well, I had to make time to go to the bathroom. I had to make time to eat lunch. I didn't get a standard, hey, you work till here and you're done. I had to be on that truck. I had to be delivering my route until it was done. If I put in a 16-hour day, well, so be it. They really didn't care. So you have to make the time for that. So no place that does any kind of delivery driving is really going to actively treat their drivers well. Amazon does the double whammy of they treat everybody poorly. However, delivery drivers are going to be peeing in bottles. Delivery drivers are going to be very uncomfortable in the summer because they don't fix the AC in those trucks. As soon as they go out, it's done because it would cost over $1,000 to replace the AC unit, and they just don't want to do that. And this isn't just me talking and assuming. This is something that my boss actually said, because I asked her, hey, could they fix my truck so I can not sweat to death during the summer? And she told me straight up, look, it's too expensive to fix the trucks. They cost over, I think it was $1,500 to fix the AC in the truck. So basically, if it's not a necessity, like basically if it's anything that keeps the truck from driving, they have to fix it. If it's anything that you can do without, or quote unquote you can do without, meaning, heat or AC, then they just don't care and they refuse to fix it because they don't want to spend that extra money. That's why delivery driving sucks. Makes great money, but you feel like you're not really cared for within those companies. At the very least, the one that I was with. It was FedEx Ground in North Dakota. I will not say the actual trucking company's name, but I didn't feel like I was valued there. I don't know if it's better anywhere else. I know that FedEx Express, they have a union because they actually work for FedEx. Ground is just contractors. So it might be different for them. But as far as I know, all delivery driving jobs are like that. My friend was a UPS driver and he said that he experienced the exact same things. So even though Amazon is definitely trash, it's not just them that do that. I know this rant went a little bit off the rails from the actual discussion in the post, but I had to get that out there. I mean, I feel like most of this channel is just me ranting about something, so why go off brand now, right? Reading itself isn't boring, but schools make it boring. I'm not exactly the biggest fan of reading, but when it's forced upon us, it's beyond boring and gives me a headache. Even worse, why do schools have to pick the most boring books ever written? Right now I'm being forced to read The Scarlet Letter, Pride and Prejudice, and The Bell Jar. I literally couldn't give less of a crap about any of them. They're long, boring, and extremely outdated. Maybe if I discovered these books on my own I might enjoy them, but every page is just pure agony. Now that very highly depends on what books the schools assign. So my school in particular, or one of my schools, whenever I was in 10th grade, they gave us 6 books that we could have chosen from to write a report on. So I got to choose a book called Alas Babylon. It was amazing. I absolutely loved it. I mean, during high school, there were a few books that we were forced to read. I was forced to read To Kill a Mockingbird, but I don't regret that at all. That book was amazing. I was forced to read Romeo and Juliet. Definitely regret that. I'm not really a fan of Shakespeare in general. My mind just doesn't really connect and click with what he does. But Romeo and Juliet was painful. I'm not saying it's bad writing because Shakespeare was a genius, but I will say that Romeo and Juliet was very painful for me just because my mind doesn't click to that kind of language, that kind of speaking. The iambic pentameter, for some reason, I just don't get it. The Old English, I just don't get it. That's also why I've never done any acting in any kind of Shakespearean play, because I just can't grasp that. Okay, I'm going a little bit off track here. I'm going to reel it back in. Basically, if you want students to really, really enjoy what they're reading, most of the time, it's probably better if you give them, at the very least, a list of books to pick from. That way they can choose what they would resonate with most. If not, maybe give them the choice of their own books. Let them go to the library and choose. But all in all, I think that forcing students to read certain books can be counterproductive and make them, in the end, hate reading and not ever want to read again. People who don't take crap from anyone are the most fragile, insecure people on the planet. We've all met people who say this. Every time I hear it, or a variation of it, it's a huge red flag that tells me that they're an immature man-child who can't handle conflict like an adult. Being able to take a rude comment without escalating is a sign of maturity and confidence. Walking away from an argument and allowing somebody else the last word is also a sign of maturity and confidence. People who are always trying to flex their assertiveness by turning non-issues into confrontations are the most unbearable people on the planet. If your response to a minor inconvenience is to spend excessive time and energy getting even with the person to the point that you've taken more time and energy responding to the inconvenience that it would have just taken you to deal with it, you're a man-child. Bonus points if you're only assertive in hypothetical situations or in your retelling of the story. No, Janice, you did not tell that customer to screw off and then punch them in the face. Now stop posturing. Yeah, the thing where people try to sound big and tough in their retelling of how they would handle that situation or how they did handle it, yeah, it's pretty lame. However, I do have a little bit of an issue with one thing in here. The original poster said something along the lines of walking away from an argument and allowing somebody else to have the last word. Being able to take a rude comment without escalation. Well, those, in my opinion, are ways of saying that I don't take any crap from anyone. I mean, think about it. Is it not taking crap from someone if you just deny them the ability to give you that crap? I have a person that lives in the house that I live at that is very, very volatile. He is very angry all the time, or not necessarily all the time, but he can get very angry to the point where he screams at anybody and everybody. So, me having the anger issues I do, it really is hard for me to deal with that. And I do consider myself someone that I try not to take crap from anybody. But here's what I do with him. All I do is look at him and say, hey man, listen, I'm not going to talk to you if you're going to be like this. And then I ignore him. I basically treat him like a child in the sense of I just don't give in to what he's doing. And it makes them kind of look at themselves and say, oh wait, hold on, I'm kind of being a jerk here. If you know anybody that does something like that, try it out. Just try telling them, hey, I'm not going to talk to you whenever you're acting like this, and then ignore them until they talk to you in a normal tone. I've actually calmed the guy down by doing that and told him, hey, you're way up here. If you're going to talk to me, I need you to be way down here. And he lowered it a little bit, and I'm like, no, more. Lower it more. Until he's getting basically to a regular conversational tone of voice. And then I'm like, okay, what are you mad at? What's wrong? It's basically like dealing with a child. But you know what? It works. Alright, and with that, I'm going to end it right there. So thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to come back throughout the week for more content. Please like and subscribe to help keep this channel going, and don't forget to have a great week.